Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling, thankful Thursday. Yes, so what are you most grateful? This morning we asked you what you're most grateful for this week. What are you most grateful for today? It's hard to say. There's been lots to be grateful for today. I had a friend who received an unexpected gift and thanked me for it. So I was grateful that everything arrived, and the team at head office had done a phenomenal job with the packaging. It looked absolutely. I asked them to send me a couple of pictures of it, and it looked amazing. It looked really good. It was in our new black boxes with the dark blue shred crinkle, whatever they call it. And everything was nestled in there. It looked amazing. Let's see what else. I just had a really good day. And then a friend of mine posted a memorial thing for Brad on there, talking about, how it's been 4 years and all of that. And I was sort of like, yeah. And for some reason I responded and said, yeah. Made me think that today, it's 4 years today, that around 10 p.m. when I went to him and said that I was going to go to bed. And so I was going to go. We had an overnight caregiver in to watch him overnight so I could get some sleep, because otherwise I would have been sitting in the recliner next to his chair and sleeping there. Not very good for getting a good night's sleep to take care of him during the day. But anyway, so I said to him, told him I was going off to bed and that I loved him and I would see him, and told him I loved him. It was time to rest and I would see him in the morning. And the last thing he said to me just as I was about to walk away, was that he loved me. And that was the last time I heard his voice, because it was just over 6 hours later he quietly slipped away at 4 a.m. on Sunday morning. So yes, I saw that there, and that kind of just started everything up. So I'm sort of like, sparkles of love are going to flow, and they are sparkles of love. So I still miss him, and I've got videos that I can play to hear his voice, but it's not really the same as having him in person. But I'm grateful that we had that time together, that we had our 20 plus years together, almost 19 of them married. I'm grateful for every single moment, the ups, the downs, the forwards, the backwards. As anybody who's been married knows, nothing's perfect. There's always things that you disagree on. There's things that you agree on. It's not always smooth sailing. There are rough patches, but I'm grateful for every single moment, including all the rough patches and everything else. So I was grateful for Sharon for posting that today. Yeah, because I'm still working on what I'm going to say tomorrow. But yeah. But anyway, so I learned a new terminology. I learned a new thing today as well. I got to learn. My other thing I'm grateful for is I got to learn a new thing today. I got to learn about spoon rings, and I thought, what? And because I'm reading one of my genealogy mystery books, I'm like, what the hell is a spoon ring? And so I went and looked it up, and it's actually that started in like the 16th or 17th century, where they would take the handle of like a teaspoon or a small serving spoon that was used back then in the day for mustard or salt or something like that, and the top end of the spoon handle would sometimes have the family crest on there, or most of them would have the family crest on there for those that were from the money. They were made of pure silver, and then it went down the handle to the little decorative piece before it got to the actual spoon portion of the spoon. And it was common knowledge, a common practice, whatever you want to call it, where it was assumed that you had that if you were a male servant, that you could take one of the small spoons, either one of the little serving ones or the teaspoons, and you could go and make your sweetheart a ring, and that would be her wedding band. And so I had to have a look on the internet, of course, to see what do these things look like, and they are really cute. When you think about how decorative some of those spoon handles are, and the fact that they kind of flatten them out a little bit and then they curve them around so they kind of bypass. So you'd have the top of the spoon handle here and the bottom that joins the scoop here, and they kind of bypass. So you have the small end and this big end that's kind of bypass each other. And I thought those are really cute. I like those. But yeah, so that's how that all started. So, when you're researching genealogy, you come across all sorts of things. But this one, I was reading my genealogy mystery story. I'm on to book 3 of the series, and they talked about these spoon rings. Well, actually, no, I learned about this ring at the end of the last book, but I didn't go and look it up. It didn't pique my interest enough at the time because I was at the end of the book. So it wasn't until I started reading the new book that I started talking about spoon rings again. I'm going to go look this one up. So you come across amazing things when you're reading about genealogy, or even when you're discovering things about genealogy as well, when you're discovering the stories behind the people, because it's all very well to go and look up your ancestors and things and get their birth dates and their marriage dates and their death dates, and all the children that they had or had that passed, all the children that survived to adulthood. And there was there's one of the census that actually asks you on the census, how many children do you have living and how many children have you had. And then there was also on some of the birth certificates as well. Later on, they started recording, how many births, how many children have you given birth to, and how many have survived, or how many are still alive. So I thought that's a great piece of information to have on a birth certificate, because certificates are really, really cool, because birth certificates can have on there, depending on the state, the county, the town, the city, the country, depending on a lot of factors as to what information they want to get. But on most that I have discovered, that I have read through, will have, of course, the name of the baby, first name, last name, the date it was born, who was present during the delivery. So if it was a midwife or a doctor, where the baby was delivered, the first name of the mother, and the maiden name of the mother. So if she's married, they want her maiden name, not her married name. And then the name of the father, the occupation of the father, and in some cases they will ask for the occupation of the mother. Not often, but I have seen that one. And then on some of them they will even ask, what number birth is this for the woman? Is it her first one, her 5th one, her 6th one? And then how many children has she had survived? How many children are still alive at that point in time? So they might say, that this is her 5th pregnancy, the 5th child she's given birth to, but she may only have 2 at home, and so this one will make number. So she only has 2 at home that are alive. The other 3 have passed. So the other 2 have passed, because 4 plus, yeah. And so that when you're a genealogist and you're looking at that information, you're like, oh my gosh, they had some deaths in the family. They had children that either were stillborn or did not survive to whatever age they're at that time. And so it gives you another place to say, okay, so on this birth certificate, it said that there were 4 children. This was her 5th pregnancy. She had 2 children at home, 2 children had passed. So we've got, so now you know that there's a total of 5 kids on this one. So it's kind of cool that depending on, like I said, depending on what countries, region, state, county, parish, town, city, depending on who kept the records, when the recording came into effect, and what information they were recording. So it's really cool what information you can gain from the birth certificate. The marriage certificate, most cases you will find the name of the bride, the name of the groom, which does not have to, in some countries, does not have to correspond with what is on their birth certificate. We have discovered this, because someone will turn and say, it might have been, say, John Richard Smith. And everybody knew him as Richard, didn't know him as John Richard. Nobody knew he even had a first name John. And or he may have been called JR the entire time. So and I have seen this done, on his marriage certificate, it would have JR instead of John Richard. And, or it may have had Richard, or it may have had Rich or Dick, or any of the other abbreviations of Richard on there, and John doesn't appear on there at all. So it could be just this is what they were commonly known as. So you have to watch for that too. And then it will have the name of the bride. It would usually have, had they been married before, so if they were a bachelor or a spinster, or a widow or a widower, and I think, and in most cases, because of the time period you're in, you would very rarely, if ever, see divorce on there, simply because that it was frowned upon to be divorced, so people would say they were widowed or a widower to get around that on their marriage certificates. Then you would have the date and place that they got married, who married them, who their witnesses were. Quite often witnesses were either very good friends, or they were relatives. So marriage certificates can help you find other family members. And usually on a marriage certificate, it will normally have the father's name and what their occupation is. So on a marriage certificate, you can gain a lot of information. And of course, this will also be in the marriage register as well. And then on your death certificate, these are my. So on the death certificate, so at birth, it is the information given to the registrar for the birth is either by one of the parents or somebody who was present at the birth. For a marriage certificate, the information given for the marriage certificate is given by the two people who are getting married. On the death certificate, it is the spouse of the person who's passed, or a child, or a close family member, or a close family friend. So their recollection of how things go by what's asked on a death certificate can be a little iffy at times. So they usually ask for the full name of the person who's passed. If they were a female and married, what was their maiden name? What was their occupation? Where did they die? When did they die? I don't have date and time. The cause of death, and we'll come back to that one in a second. And it would have who were their parents, father's name, mother's name. On some cases, on some death certificates, I have seen if it was a woman, how many children had they had, and how many had were still alive at the time of the mother's death. So I have seen that as well. I have it's on my grandmother's death certificate, and it's actually it has the ages of her children that were alive, which happened to be all four of them. So it just had their ages listed. It didn't have if they were male or female. It didn't have their names. It just had their ages. And then, of course, you've got the name of the doctor who signs it off. If there was a coroner's inquest, there will be coroner report later on. And then you've got the register's signature on there as well. And there may be some other information in there as well, but that's the basic. Going back to the cause of death, this is good if you can get copies of your ancestors' death certificates as well as their siblings. Look at their cause of death, because the cause of death information can sometimes provide the family with some insight as to what's going on and something to be aware of. So if you have, if you're looking down, say maybe a parent, their parents, their grandparents are looking straight, down that straight line of their ancestry, you may see that there could have been heart trouble. All these people died from heart trouble. So that could be something that you might need to be aware of. There could have been cancer. There could have been respiratory problems that were passed down. There could be a kidney issue in there that's been passed down. So there's things that you can go and look death certificates, because if that wasn't even what they passed from at the time, diabetes can also be passed down through generations too. So if you so they might turn around and say that they died of pneumonia, but then it would have a secondary underlying cause was that they had these heart issues or cardiac issues. So you're always looking for the secondary cause, not just the primary cause of the death, but also the secondary cause as well, to see if there were other medical issues that were going on that could have played into the fact that this person died of pneumonia. Was there any other underlying issues? Yes, there were. It's a lot of times when you see people who have passed from the flu, usually they have an underlying condition that may have made the flu worse for them. So this is a good way to keep a track of medical history down through the family as well. And just to be aware, is there something that we need to be aware of? Like Alzheimer's and dementia would also be on there. Or what do they call it back then? Senility? Yeah, senility. Or what was it when I saw on that death certificate at that time? There was one that was on a death certificate. When I finally figured out what the writing said, I cracked up laughing. Crazy of mind or mad of mind or something like that it was. And I figured, okay, so that person either had a little craziness there, or the fact that they had dementia or something like that, and that wasn't a term that was around at that time. So you've got to look into those things too. And deciphering the handwriting is a lot of fun. I learned some new tricks on my genealogy and on how to decipher the handwriting. And I've been doing pretty well up to that point. Now it's sort of like, oh, that's going to make it a little easier. So that's just some of the information that you can find on the different certificates, marriage. Yeah, but family tree research is basically looking up the facts. Genealogy comes in when we tell the stories behind the facts. So it's not just, here's John Richard Smith, and he was born in 1872. He got married in 1893. He died in 1931. And these are the places that he died. He was born, married, and died. This is who he got married to. This is how many kids he had. What's the story? What was his job? So we throw in census reports at this point and look up census reports. Do they have any more information in there? Where did they live through the time? Because, from where they were born to when they passed, they weren't in exactly the same. They were not really in the same area. And so you got to, you can find the story. What is the story behind these people? And you start diving into newspaper articles and journals that have been left behind and other genealogical research that's been done that you can tap into and see, and everything else as well. So, and of course, the other thing that you look at too is what occurred in history during their lifetime and how were they affected by it? Were they in the area where that incident happened? For example, so taking our John Richard Smith, he could have been living in England at the time. And of course, he was alive during the Titanic. Did he know anybody on there? Did we have any family? Were there any family members on the Titanic? Because that was in 1912. So, what was the story behind that? Did it have any effect on the family? Then you have World War I that broke out as well. Did he military? Did he have members? Did he have any kids in the military? Or when did we say he got married? In the late 1890s, didn't he? Yeah, he could have kids. Did they have any family members that were involved in the military that went away and fought in the war? Did he himself sign up and go and fight in the war? So it's finding out these stories. It's not just the facts, birth, marriage, death, done. No, it's who was this person? Are there any newspaper articles written about them? What was life like in that area at the time? So you can get some idea of where he lived, what the conditions may have been like in their time. So now you're starting to build a picture of who was this person. And that's when a lot of the cool stuff comes out with the research and everything else, because not only are we looking for the facts about this person, we're also looking for the stories behind the person as well. But anyway, I need to go because I've got to go get on another, I have no idea how I got into that topic about certificates, but you've got another genealogy lesson today. I got to go get on another call, got my mastermind call on, yay. And so have a super fantastic Thursday, and we will catch you back here bright and early tomorrow morning for a fun Friday. It's going to be a fun day tomorrow, I can tell you that right now. But have a super fantastic sparkling evening. Heck on out.